Keep getting buzzed here. Okay. Um, so this week we're continuing our little talk on the Beatitudes, and it's been really great to kind of go through these one by one and learn a little bit better about them. And every time I go back to the scriptures, I learn something new. There's always people that are studying it better than me, that have information that's fresh that I didn't know. And so I think when we're reading the Bible, we have to stay open, right? We can know what we know, but we have to be a little bit aware of what we don't know, and maybe a little bit humble about what we don't know. And I think unless we're humble about what we don't know, I don't see how we can ever learn anything new, right? If we already have it figured out, then there's no need to learn anything new. Um, and this week is kind of a good example of that, because I've heard people talk about being meek, the meek inheriting the earth a lot. And I don't know about you, but when I've heard people preach on, and I've done this myself, so I've describe heard people describe meekness as being like sheep. Have you ever heard that one? I don't know if you hear this the train, but whatever. Um, so I've heard meek being a descriptive for sheep. Also, I've heard sheep be called kind of dumb, obedient, um, but only to their own kind, right? And so they don't want. Not knowing much about sheep, I'm like, is this the way that we want to think about who is inheriting the earth? The other thing that happens in my mind is that, and this is just because it rhymes. When I hear meek, I think weak, because I never hear of any other. It's the only time we ever use the term meek, right? Um, is in this scripture. But I did a little bit of I did a little bit of I did a little bit of research for you. So first of all, I did what a lot of you do. I go to Webster's Dictionary, or webstersdictionary.com, whatever it is these days, and I say, what does meek mean? And the response I get is, it means soft, or it means supple. And actually, one place it means slippery, which that was new to me. I didn't know it could be slippery. But none of those sound like traits that I want. Um, if you're, I've been watching. So I just finished watching NBA, right? And this happens in all over sports. It's, oh, that guy was soft. He was not tough. He couldn't take it. And so when I think of soft or meek, if that's what meek means, then that's not something I want to be, and that's not something we're usually encouraged to be. We're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be strong. And yeah, but I did a little further research for you, because this word meek. Jesus was not an English speaker. I don't know if you knew this. He didn't speak English. Um, I don't think English even existed back then. But the Bible is written in Greek. And I found a scholar online, um, actually a biblical scholar in Australia, who wrote a whole article about the Greek word that gets translated as meek. And the Greek word is praus. Praus. And she researched not only the biblical Greek, but she researched all the ancient Greek usages of this word praus. And she came up with something very, very interesting. Aristotle and some of the other Greek philosophers used the word meek, and not in terms of people inheriting the earth, but usually in terms of animals. And so I have an illustration that I'm going to use right here. See how this works. I have an illustration of meekness with regards to horses. Okay. And I really wish Jean was actually on here because she knows a lot about horses. But so I'm going to share this video and hopefully it works with the recording. It takes about 4 minutes. And this is from the Virginian Pilot, which is a newspaper out in East Coast of Virginia. And they have a great little story about horses. So I'm going to share my screen and share this story with you. And just take, yes, 3 minutes, 26 seconds. Just listen to this story here.
Christmas morning in a Mustang world for those of us that are training for the 2013 Extreme Mustang Makeover in Swedesboro, New Jersey. Myself, Ashley Winch, and Jennifer Long will pick up horses along with 40 plus other trainers, and we'll have 120 days to take a wild animal and turn it into a show horse.
She's nice. She's nice looking.
Good. We'll see what she looks like when she gets fit. She looks like a nice horse. When I saw Lucy up in Lorton for the first time, we pulled onto the property and I drove by the pen and I saw this gigantic chestnut mare. And I looked at her and I said, I pity the poor son of a gun that gets that horse. And so they handed me my paperwork and I looked at the number and I started going around the pens and I looked and I realized that that horse was the one I got. And she was a handful from day one.
Now you gotta wait. You gotta get that, let her settle down. Just let her go. Stand there. Don't ask her, just let her go. She ain't ready yet. She's afraid.
We've got this large horse with an assertive attitude, and she's a wild Mustang at the same time. So all those things combined made her a very difficult animal to work with.
Even though you're scared on the inside that you could get hurt or thrown or kicked or whatever, you have to be brave so the horse is brave because they can feel your energy. So if you're scared, the horse will get scared. I had to pretend to be really brave a whole lot.
And every horse is different, every horse is unique, they're just like people, and the more I've learned, the more I realize I just don't know a lot about them, and I'm just excited about learning for the rest of my life.
Those trainers in Group 2, we're about 10 minutes away from starting your session. Group 2 trainers should be getting ready, please. A reminder to all of our trainers, the covered arena is not open.
I hadn't cried the entire time, not from when I fell, not from being frustrated, almost from frustration, but I didn't. And when I dismounted and I knew that she was no longer mine and she was going away, I cried all the tears that I had saved up.
9.5 now, $1,000.
Extremely impeccable bond with her. She came along in my life at a time where I needed her and she needed me. She went to a good home and I'm okay with it, but it was very, very hard. Having a wild animal that you can't even touch the first day you get it, and to what she was the last day at the show, is just phenomenal. The bond is just, it's so hard to explain. I would cry and then I'd be okay, and then I'd cry again, and then I'd be okay, and then I'd cry again. And of course I cried last week too.
It was hard to let go of something that you love so dearly because they take a part of you with them because you put so much of your heart into it.
One bird, you can give me one. Salted Bears Way, 950, 950. Give them a big hand. All right, you gotta go now to.
I hope you followed that story. About in researching the word meek, the word praus in Greek, I came across, as I mentioned before, some of the research, and meek has a different meaning than what we think of. It's not just soft. It's certainly not weak. It has to do with gentleness. It has to do with, but also with kind of a resoluteness to it. And some of the ancient Greek was about trainers, people training horses for war. And some of that scholarship is a little sketchy, but the indication seems to be that, if you're taking a horse into war, especially in the ancient times, the horse has to be calm with you, but also has to do its task. And it got to the point where I think I understood that meekness is not about, in that video, the meekness was not about the horse, it was about the trainer. And the trainer, the first lady she said it perfectly, I thought. You had to exude calmness. You had to be extraordinarily patient. And you couldn't force the horse. The horse is so much bigger and stronger. And so they have to reassure and reassure and reassure and not get bent out of shape when the horse is assertive, right? And that's what the guy called it. But be patient and resolute in their gentleness with the horse until the horse itself allows you to ride it. And I think that kind of opened up my understanding of meekness. Aristotle used meekness, the term praus, to refer to being able to calm one's anger. And I think if we can be kind of armchair psychologists, like to calm one's fears, to calm anxieties, to calm whatever that strong emotion is that wants to take you out, and just take you out. So meekness is gentle. It's resolute patience, even in the face of anger, in the face of something really strong in front of you, like a horse. So I was really impressed with the scholarship that they've figured that out. Because I don't think that we want to be weak. I don't think God wants us to be weak. But gentleness is one of the fruits of the Spirit, right? Later on, Jesus uses the word praus later in Matthew's gospel. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened down with heavy stuff." He says, "Take upon yourself my burden and learn from me, because I am," the King James says, "meek, because I am praus. I am meek and I am gentle and I am humble of heart." So something about God is gentle. We like to think God is just like always in charge. Maybe so, but in charge in a gentle fashion. Now, on top of all that, there's one more little term in here that I really appreciate. And it's that last one about inheriting the earth. The earth is the Lord's and everything that's in it, right? That's what the psalmist says. And I love this notion that, like, if you are patient, if you can calm your anger, your frustration, your fear, if you can just be resolute and patient and gentle, then the earth, which is God's, will be given to you. So often we want to take, but actually the earth is a gift that God gives those who are patient. Last little reference here. You may remember, this will be just a chapter or two earlier than the Beatitudes. Jesus was in the wilderness. He was fasting for 40 days. He was tempted by the devil, by Satan, by the tempter. And one of the temptations was, Jesus, I will give you the world if you just bow down and worship me. I'll just give it to you. A lot of times we say, okay, that's the devil being tricky and deceitful, and he's offering something he doesn't have the authority to give. All that may be true. I really think that I somehow know, or I can discern the attitude of Jesus in which and when he responds, because the response is it's not yours to give. Don't test the Lord. Don't have anything before the Lord. And it just occurred to me that, I always wondered, what was Jesus' attitude when he was responding to the devil? I think this time he was resolutely patient. Perhaps understanding that the earth will be given to you anyhow if you are patient and if you allow God's own timeline to function. So, blessed are those who are meek. Blessed are those who are patient. Blessed are those who are gentle. And God will give you the best that God has ever created, and that is the earth. Let this be true for me and for you. Thanks be to God.